Sydney Olympic is Newcastle's hoodoo team. In 2 seasons, the Breakers are yet to claim a single NSL point from the Sydney club. Their last encounter resulted in a 4-1 drubbing. The memory of that loss should be enough to spur the Breakers on tonight, but there are other incentives. For the first day of the year, coach Bruce Stowell is hoping for his first home win of the season. And following last week's 5-0 thrashing of Brisbane, Stowell is confident. He's kept the same 13-man lineup, including former Sydney player Jason Pollack. Pollack scored 2 goals last game and is now fully recovered from foot surgery at the start of the season. Meanwhile, the Breakers' deferred round 12 match against Melbourne CSC has been set down for next Wednesday night. The match will start at 7:30 at Mitre 10 Stadium.
It may be on the other side of the harbour, but Stockton is only a convenient 3 minutes ferry ride away from Newcastle. But for 2 weeks from January the 18th, that convenience will disappear. The ferry will stop so the Stockton wharf can be repaired. A private bus service will replace the ferry, which some regular commuters aren't pleased about.
I don't think it's very good because I rely on the ferry a lot. It's a sort of best way to go if you want to get over town.
State member for Newcastle, Bryce Gaudry, says the repairs shouldn't be done in the height of summer.
This is the peak time for transporting people between Stockton and the city. It's also going to be at the time of the Newcastle Regatta. So to me it shows a lack of concern and consideration for Newcastle.
Mr Gaudry says there should be 2 public wharves in Stockton to ensure an uninterrupted ferry service. He's asked for $300,000 in public works money to upgrade a second facility. While repairs on the Stockton wharf are about to begin, upgrading on the Sydney to Newcastle rail line is almost finished. For the past week, 400 crew members have been working around the clock on the $10 million project. During that time, thousands of travellers have had to rely on buses. From tomorrow, City Rail and Country Link train services will revert to their normal timetables. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
Further south at Moonee Valley, race 6 over 2,035 metres.
Finding it out a length and a half to Winget as they straighten up, and they're followed by Stirring, but Kalani hit the front with 200 to go. Kalani by a half length to Burtson down the outside Winget, and they're followed by Tango Master. Burtson on the inside still in front of Kalani, who can't go on. Winget is coming at Burtson. Burtson on the inside battling on. Burtson will see it out. It's won by a head.
7, 3 and 2, the Quinella $29, a trifecta $267.50.
These are some of the men who are owed money. Our cameras were not allowed on the army base, so they agreed to meet us outside. Although they're still employed by Dionfield Constructions, they've not been paid since before December 15th, and nor are they likely to, as the company is in liquidation. The men, however, with the backing of their union, the CFMEU, are seeking payments for their bricklaying work from Stewart Constructions, who subcontracted the job. They claim Stewart Constructions knew of the financial difficulties of Dionfield as far back as June.
It's not a question of whether they're legally responsible, they're certainly morally responsible. We believe that before a company hires a subcontractor, they should make sure that it has the finances to pay the workers.
The union estimates the men are owed $120,000. They've had to get through Christmas without any money, and they've been reporting for work for at least 3 weeks in the hope of being paid. A spokesman for Stewart Constructions in Sydney says he gave a guarantee to the men that they would be paid if they continued working. The men, however, say there was no such guarantee, and they're going to do all in their power to prevent any other bricklaying company from finishing the work.
Can assure them that whilst ever these bricklayers and the labourers stay here on this site, that the bricklaying work will not be finished. I think they would have to look long and far for another contractor that would come in to finish this contract under these circumstances.
Work on the site has not yet been disrupted by the sit-in, but according to the CFMEU it soon will be. They've called a meeting for Friday with all the major unions involved to discuss the situation. This afternoon, when the men tried to return to the base, the police and military police were called. But the men say they don't want any trouble, just the money they're owed.
Definitely, I'll stay until the end. No matter how long it takes, I'll stay on site, no matter what happens.
Jodie McKay, NBN News.
Around this time of year, thousands of jaded city folk go bush in the hope of seeing the wildlife. But today they need not have gone any further than this industrial strip at Lambton, because Skippy, or at least a country cousin, had come to the city.
I was just standing up the back of the warehouse there and just happened to look out. And kangaroo came up around the corner and just started hopping down here.
And what did you think at that point?
I thought I was dreaming.
After blinking a few times, Ron joined his colleagues in chasing the visitor around the electrical wholesaler's warehouse. A member of the Native Animals Trust Fund helped out, but it was she, and not the wallaby, who was caught on the hop.
My normal rescue equipment consists of a cat cage, and it consists of a pet pack, and it consists of my bird net, because I'm exclusively a bird rescuer and possum rescuer, so I wasn't quite expecting to have something quite that large.
Eventually, the metre-tall wallaby had its hop stopped.
And we threw a sheet over him, and a couple of the guys dived on him, and we sort of wrestled with him and then put him in the box.
After putting the wallaby in the closest thing to a pouch that could be found, a National Parks and Wildlife Service ranger inspected it, trying to work out where it had bound from.
One would expect that it's come out of someone's backyard, which is in fact illegal.
The wandering wallaby was later chauffeured back to the bush. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
With pleasure. Get up out of there, you bastard. You tell me there's not a fucking filling in there or something.
Cloudless skies told it was a perfect day for the beach, but in some popular surfside places north from Caves Beach, the sea itself looked far from enticing, with this red stain in the water.
We've lived here for approximately 10 years and we've never seen it before, not like this.
Some Caves Beach residents thought the red clumps were sewage carried from a nearby outfall, which they say is a frequent problem.
Well, mainly only when the swell comes from the northeast, then it brings the effluent down. You take your chances going surfing then of getting an ear infection or other diseases from it.
But those paddling in it believed the substance was red algae.
Not smelly, as I said, I don't think it's anything foul, otherwise I wouldn't be out there.
The Environment Protection Authority also believes it's red algae, and apart from causing swimmers discomfort, it's not considered harmful. EPA officers have been at Caves Beach checking the substance. At this stage, it's not known whether the bloom is due to natural causes or has been fed by sewage or pollution in the water. Scott Bevan, NBN News. The glittering prize of rock stardom is a world away from this Skillshare office in Mayfield. But these people, led by Bruce Fitter, are considering a bold scheme to put the Hunters musicians on the world stage.
We have the talent, we just have to utilise it in a more business-like way, I figure.
To develop that business knowledge, the newly formed Musicians Cooperative intends to pool talent and resources to offer help in management, organising shows and marketing, and is even setting up a record label.
And the non-profit record label basically would distribute CDs and tapes overseas, hopefully, as well as distributing them around Australia.
And if the cooperative's plans come to fruition, Mr Fitter believes the likes of U2 and Bon Jovi may have to share the limelight with Hunter-nurtured stars.
The Hunter could be one of the major music centres in Australia, if not noted in the world.
Scott Bevan, NBN News.
If practice makes perfect, these youngsters are heading for the top. 59 children have signed on for the Northern Soccer Federation camp, 57 boys and 2 girls. A special treat today, a few tips from Australian and breaker stars Warren Spink and Jason Pollock.
And this is good fun, you know, is to get in there with the kids. The kids come to the games. I mean, that's where the lifeblood of the game's coming from. So if you can involve yourself with the kids, I mean, it's only good for the game and good for the breakers as well.
The camp runs for a week, targeting ball skills. The Northern Soccer Federation keeps an eye on the talent. Some of the players may move on to elite training squads. And from there, who knows? Peter Ryan, NBN News. The young soldier was honoured with a full military funeral, paying tribute to a man described by Archdeacon Grant Bell as being a character who loved nothing better than a challenge. The Holy Trinity Anglican Church couldn't hold the thousands of mourners. Many were seated outside, listening to the service through a loudspeaker. Members of Paul's army unit from the Inoggera base in Queensland formed a march past in his honour. Born and bred in the Glen Innes area, Paul was well known throughout the town. Eldest son of Mayor David Donnelly, Paul is also survived by his mother Catherine, sisters Meredith and Louise, and brother Michael. It's believed Paul drowned on Thursday in the Clarence River while riding rapids with army friends. Ironically, it was after Paul rescued one of his mates from the river and was attempting to retrieve equipment when he struck difficulty himself. His body was recovered on Saturday. Ten-year-old Rebecca Murray is literally turning the gymnastics world upside down. Signed on by Institute of Sport Talent Scouts for an 8-year scholarship, this young athlete is gunning for glory at the 2000 Olympics.
try my best and wear gold.
From Mannering Park on the Central Coast, Rebecca has always had an excellent sense of balance.
Literally from the time she could walk, she was doing cartwheels, splits, and we thought, right, we'll take her down to the gym. The teacher's seen her there and she said, this girl's got a lot of talent, keep her going at it.
She'll leave her parents and 3 sisters tomorrow for the Institute, where her training workload will be lifted from 6 hours a week to 27. She'll also go to school in Canberra, only coming home on school holidays. Mrs. Murray admits it will be tough on Rebecca, but says her daughter should develop her gifted skills.
Police resumed their search for the missing 22-year-old man this morning. Brett Ingleby and his 26-year-old de facto wife were planning to spend a couple of days cruising the lake system. They anchored off Mile Shores last night. Police say Mr. Ingleby's wife was inside the boat when she heard a splash. She came out to find Brett struggling in the water.
When she got out in the after deck, she saw that he was in difficulties, tried to help him back on board. She couldn't do that, and then she went to the radio to ask for some assistance. When she came out, she saw her de facto disappearing below the surface.
Volunteers and Tea Gardens police made a search of the area around the boat last night, but failed to find any sign of the man. 4 divers from Sydney arrived at Mile Shores this morning. With distraught relatives awaiting news, the divers began an extensive search around the boat. Mr. Ingleby's body was found around 3 o'clock near where he disappeared. Meanwhile, at Lake Ainsworth near Lennox Head on the far north coast, police divers have found the body of a man believed to be a missing British backpacker. The 26-year-old went swimming with friends in the early hours of Monday morning. He was heard to cry for help but could not be found. An extensive search yesterday failed to find any trace of him. Today, divers battled murky waters and poor visibility for almost 2 hours before finding the body in 4 metres of water. A post-mortem examination will be conducted later this week. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
After finishing second last on the NBL ladder, there's big room for improvement for the Newcastle Falcons. 23-year-old Simon O'Donnell is the latest recruit. After spending time playing the college circuit in the United States, he signed last year with the North Melbourne Giants. Known for his strong rebounding and offensive skills, the forward was hampered by ankle injuries, playing only 7 games in 5 months. Measuring 201 centimetres, O'Donnell plans to take the Falcons to new heights.
I mean, I'm a pretty decent-sized guy, and they've got some big guys on this team already, so I wouldn't see why we wouldn't be a physical team with me included now and the bulk they've already got.
Other changes include the return of Jason Joins, no stranger to the team, filling in for Paul Kuiper after a bad knee injury kept him on the sideline for most of last season. Kuiper will also be back in form this year. The Falcons' first game will be in front of a home crowd when they play the Townsville Suns in April. Meanwhile, potential pros have been going through their paces at the Broadmeadow Stadium this week. Head coach Tom Wiseman plans to form a junior squad to train with the Falcons, headhunting for future players.
We want to develop the area youth, and we want to give them the opportunity to become a Falcon. And we have a spot left in our 12 contracted players. We're going to have 11 people on contract, and we're going to have this squad of, say, 6 to 8, that one of those players may well earn a contract.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
The building is a survivor of days when sailing ships and steam trains bustled amid the commercial clatter of Newcastle's East End. Built in 1885, the cottage housed Newcastle's railway station master. Since the 1960s, it's been a haunt for the homeless. Its rafters are roost for pigeons. Vandals and the weather have led to its gradual decay.
We're very lucky that people have fought over many years to keep this building. Often it was sort of always put up to be demolished, but it's always been kept. and when it's restored it'll suddenly join with the Customs House, the Erpgillum Bond Store, to provide a beautiful core of the historic buildings facing onto the foreshore.
Federal Government One Nation program funding proved a lifeline for the building's restoration. The Newcastle City Council commissioned conservation architects and builders for the $600,000 project, expected to take about 8 months to complete. It'll be labour-intensive work using traditional skills to breathe new life into the old building, hopefully reversing the years of neglect and scars inflicted by vandals.
Once use comes back to all of the buildings and people start living in the city again, I think you're going to find that the vandalism will reduce because people want to live here. There's going to be very good buildings to use, so I think that will help curb the level of vandalism that has occurred.
Four-year-old Tyrone Paul knows his Aboriginal name. It's Marug, and it means good man. Taught by tribal elders, he represents a new generation carrying the torch of Aboriginal culture. Marug now splashes where in 1988 Aborigines threw wreaths on the water to commemorate the European invasion of their land. The bicentenary polarised differences. It's hoped the Year of Indigenous People will build bridges of understanding. Bill Smith is coordinating local events, culminating in an international conference in Wollongong.
We're going to start off on the 26th of this month at 9 a.m. at the youth centre at corner of Grey and Wickham Street, and proceed up Bunter Street through the mall and back to the City Council to raise the flag there.
Bill has taken his cause to Prime Minister Keating, who launched Indigenous Peoples Week in Redfern. The main aim is to get ordinary Australians to recognise Aboriginal calls for a treaty, the restoration of tribal lands and greater self-determination.
The Charlestown Swimming Club is determined to make a big splash at the championships. It's been busy upgrading facilities at the centre. More than $20,000 has been spent on installing new lights and grandstand seating, while in the pool, new starting blocks and electronic touchpads are in place. The top swimmers from across the state are taking part in the championships. 700 competitors from 98 clubs, making it the largest swimming event outside the metropolitan area. The first day of racing saw some heated competition.
Jacinda Summerall, Roy Balmer Indoor, 109.2, Diana Callum.
Friday night provided a think tank for Tamworth's music identities and City Council officers to finalise the outline for a National Music Expo to be held later this year. The event is planned to start on September 30th and will run for 4 days.
It goes for 3 days at the Town Hall, in the small Town Hall of course. The fourth day we'll be having an open air concert which will be held in Bicentennial Park.
Like a smaller expo held in Tamworth 6 years ago, the event will bring together musicians and industry representatives from all facets of music formats, including country, brass, rock and ethnic. It will also be held in conjunction with Tamuska, an annual music camp which attracts aspiring musicians from around the nation. The main aim of the expo is to broaden the city's music reputation so that it's recognised as more than just Australia's country music capital.
Something like this which will bring together streams of music such as Tamuska represents, such as the actual importers, the manufacturers, other exhibitors and so on. Marvellous, because too much, I think, Tamworth has shown or thought to be a one-horse town in the sense of purely country music.
Chris Nicholson skippers the 505 yacht Pablos with his brother Darren as crew. This year Chris has won everything, including the National 505 Championship sailed off Fremantle against a fleet of 50 boats. At the World Titles in Santa Cruz, USA against 85 boats, Chris won the World 505 Sailing Championship with heat placings of 9th and then 5 consecutive first placings, achieving the highest points ever in a world regatta. So dominant was Chris that he didn't have to sail the last heat. Daphne Shaw hails from Laurelton on the mid-north coast and has had a brilliant year in her chosen sport, lawn bowls. Daphne was selected in the 5-person team to contest the World Bowls Championships in Scotland and was a member of the bronze medal winning fours team. She returned home to make the semi-finals of the Golden Nugget tournament at Tweed Heads, the richest singles event in Australia for women. Then Daphne really came to prominence. At the International Qantas Jetabout tournament in Sydney, against 6 of the best male bowlers in the world, Daphne won the pairs with Cameron Curtis, beating David Bryant and Rob Perella, and lost the final of the singles to Cameron Curtis, beating Mark McMahon on the way to the final. Charlene Machin has also been outstanding, winning a gold medal in her chosen sport, karate, in Sydney at the Australia Cup, gold and silver at the New South Wales titles. At the Women's World Cup in Japan, Charlene won silver in the individual event and a bronze in the teams. And at the World All-Styles Championship in Spain, Charlene whipped the best in the business to win gold in the under 53 kilogram division. Add to that a gold medal for Kumite at the World Shido-Ryu titles, and it's been a big year for Charlene. The winner will be announced at the glittering telecast this Friday night on NBN. Mark Sargent, like his front row partner at the Newcastle Knights, Paul Harrigan, has had a big year, being a part of the successful Newcastle outfit that made the semi-finals for the first time. Big Sarge was a member of the Australian team that played a one-off test against Papua New Guinea and did so well that he was chosen in the World Cup squad for England. Again, Sargent performed above expectations and was named in the starting lineup for the World Cup final, which Australia won. Veronica Lee is a young surf life-saving athlete from the Central Coast, and this year she was undefeated in beach sprint events except for the national title, where she fell in sight of the winning post. Veronica went on to represent Australia at the landmark test against South Africa, where she won the beach sprint and the relay. From there to the world titles, and Veronica won the beach sprint, the beach flags, the interclub beach sprint, and won a bronze in the relay. Michael York from Tamworth is regarded as one of the great hockey players in the world at the moment, and consequently was an important part in the Australian team at the Olympic Games in Spain. The men performed very well, winning a silver medal, and Michael was a star during the tournament. He is captain of the Tamworth Frogs in the National Hockey League. The winner of this year's NBN St George Sports Star of the Year will be announced during a live telecast this Friday night on NBN. Anthony Winget is a young man who you wouldn't argue with too often. He's built like a Greek god, and naturally his chosen sport is bodybuilding. And he does it better than anyone else. At the World Championships in South Africa, Anthony won the Mr. Universe title at the World Physique Heavyweight Crown. Nerida Falconer is from Scott's Head near Coffs Harbour and this year has taken the surfing world by storm. Nerida is currently ranked 4th in the world and won the Gunston 500 in South Africa, beating Pam Burridge, was runner-up in the Bells Beach Classic to American Lisa Anderson, runner-up to Wendy Botha in Japan, was a semi-finalist in Brazil and a quarter-finalist in a further 2 contests. Matthew Ryan has had a year people dream about. With his trusty steed, Khyber TikTok, Matthew took all before him to win the individual gold medal at the Barcelona Olympics for the 3-day event. And then a real bonus. Matthew rode brilliantly to secure another gold medal for Australia in the team's event of the 3-day contest. Matthew returned to Australia to win a big event in Melbourne soon after the Olympics to confirm his status as Olympic champion. The winner of the NBN St George Sports Star of the Year will be announced tomorrow night during a live telecast beginning at 9:30. Vicky Roycroft is a former winner of the NBN St George Sports Star of the Year and is once again a finalist. Vicky created a first in 1992, becoming the first Australian to win the British Show Jumping Championship at the Royal Windsor Horse Show, and she also finished with a silver medal in the team's event. Vicky was chosen for the Olympic Games in Barcelona, but her horse Mickey Mouse suffered an injury and she couldn't compete. However, Vicky was at the Games as the coach of the highly successful 3-day eventing team that won 2 gold medals. Rounding out our look at the finalists, from Inverell, cyclist Scott Sunderland. Scott competes overseas and had a fine season with consistent high placings in all of the big events, including a 4th in Sicily, a 5th in Milan, a 3rd in the Carrera Classic, and then he returned home to win the Alpine Mazda Tour against a crack international field. Tonight at 9:30, NBN will bring you a stunning tribute to the sportsmen and women of northern New South Wales, where the winner of this year's NBN St George Sports Star of the Year will be announced.
And try the fishing here.